Hey everyone, this is Maddie here with Altcoin Buzz. Hope you're all doing very well. So here we are the day after the supposed SEC hearing on whether or not Ethereum was a security. And there's still a lot of unknowns in the air. A lot of people in the comments, a lot of you soldiers in the Altcoin Buzz army suggested that it was FUD, that it was something drummed up to instill a sense of fear in the crypto community. That may be the case. The dust hasn't completely settled as far as I'm concerned. And there's still the possibility that this was a closed door meeting, that this was something private or relatively private that the SEC was undertaking. There's a great comment in yesterday's video that suggested, just the fact that this isn't live streamed in 4K all over the internet doesn't mean it's not happening. This isn't necessarily going to be something that's a circus level entertainment event, which I thought was a very sober and rational comment. However, we don't know because there was supposed to be some news coming out of it. I haven't heard anything really one way or the other. And there have been theories all the way from, Reddit and other places going all the way to suggest that this was really just something generated on the internet as a FUD storm to chip away at our confidence in Ethereum. So we'll have more updates as they come. I don't know one way or another the full status of what did or did not happen, but interesting tweet here by Mr. McAfee. The SEC made us fear Ethereum because Bitcoin was so obviously just a currency and out of their realm. They want to crush crypto. So the only way to scare us is to frown at Ethereum. The legal field is clear. Fish will ride bicycles before Ethereum could be called a security. Great point of view as always. If you agree, if you disagree one way or another, make sure to sound off in the comments. We'll have more on the SEC hearing if and or when it does come about with regards to Ethereum. But at the moment, we're kind of at a standstill. There's no new information to report. So here on altcoinbuzz.io, article by Garrett. These guys are just perpetually in the news. So Mr. Munger, Mr. Buffett, and now Bill Gates has entered the fray. So here you have three, old men, not to be disrespectful, but you have three old billionaires sitting side by side, trashing Bitcoin and crypto yet again. So Bill Gates speaks about Bitcoin with Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Cryptocurrency market run likely stalled by recent comments by Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and Bill Gates. Do you guys think that's the case? Do you think that their comments have any weight to them? I think initially they did. Initially, Warren Buffett's skepticism had an impact. I think increasingly we're being inoculated to his negativity. We're becoming immune to it. I feel like it's having less and less of an impact. So Garrett goes on to describe here a little bit about the price fluctuations in Bitcoin. Warren Buffett, chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, said that the asset is itself creating nothing. So he does not view it as a productive asset. He views it as more of a supposed crowd mentality asset that people feel they need to get in on. But this is still while acknowledging that he knows nothing about cryptocurrency, nothing about Bitcoin. And Berkshire Hathaway Vice Chairman Charlie Munger is even more negative in some of his comments. He's comparing cryptocurrencies to having dementia. Trading cryptocurrencies, rather, is comparable to having dementia, a disease that includes the symptoms of forgetfulness, limited social skills, and impaired thinking abilities. And now you have Mr. Bill Gates that's joining the discussion here, and that's throwing his hat into the race of the Bitcoin haters. Again, guys, I see this as the old guard. I see this as three people that have a vested interest in defending their established way of life, their institutions. Think of all the financial backers of Berkshire Hathaway. That's a rather centralized power group, wouldn't you say so? So it's in their best interest to, crap all over, excuse my French, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, because I think that legitimately threatens their wealth and their power structure. I'm a little bit surprised to see Bill Gates join the discussion here. So he says that I would short it, referring to Bitcoin, if there was an easy way to do it. It is interesting to see a leader in the tech world being so unsupportive of new technologies. I totally agree. But his past assumptions of Bitcoin being used for illegal activity likely formed his negative opinion on the technology. And here you have Mr. Tyler Winklevoss of Winklevoss Twins fame. So they're, of course, the founders of the Gemini exchange. They're early investors in Bitcoin. Tyler Winklevoss is calling out Mr. Gates. And in a recent tweet, he said, "Dear Bill Gates, there's an easy way to short Bitcoin," right? Referring to Mr. Gates's statement that he'd be happy to do it if there were an easy way to do so. So Tyler writes, "You can short XBT, the CBOE Bitcoin USD futures contract, and put your money where your mouth is." So this is an interesting call out because you have a major heavyweight, a billionaire effectively in the world of crypto and Bitcoin, telling Bill Gates that, hey, if you really do feel so negatively about the technology, if you're so pessimistic about its future, then put your money where your mouth is, because you can make a lot of money if you're right. If you choose to short Bitcoin and you're right, you can stand to add significantly to your fortune. And of course, Mr. Gates isn't above criticism. He has been wrong in the past. Nobody's perfect, right? So this is a quote that's purportedly something he said back in the early 80s, referring to the future of consumer computational needs, saying 640K of computer memory ought to be enough for anybody. So, I described Warren Buffett in the past as somebody that is to be respected, that is successful, has a great history and a great track record in the world of business. And Bill Gates is that person, in my eyes, in the world of technology. But nobody's right 100% of the time. And I don't know why he's deviating, why he's moving out of his lane to join the naysayers all of the sudden. It seems a little bit forced. It seems like it's certainly something out of his comfort zone and his area of expertise. Just a reminder, as I see it, that he's not 100% right in everything that he's done, despite his success. And as a related article here, just in case he is getting under your skin, just a reminder that Bitcoin adoption, which was really one of the primary angles of attack, right? Early on, and with people like Buffett were saying that, well, Bitcoin is just not adopted anywhere. It's not practical. There's no infrastructure. That's because we're at the infancy stages of this technology, in effect. And adoption is only continuing to grow. The Lightning Network is only continuing to expand. So you have an interesting article here about its applications, its acceptance in all kinds of different industries like parking lots, supplies, stores, courses, so academic courses, boutique hotels. You can take a look at this and see some of the examples, many of which are Asian retail examples. And I know Jeff has spoken about this, but if you've ever been to China and you really get a feel for just how electronically savvy the Chinese consumers are. I lived in China briefly. I was fortunate enough to spend some time in Shanghai and mainland China. And it's amazing how much is done at the level of smartphones in terms of consumer spending. So there are some natural avenues where, in my opinion, Bitcoin and crypto is going to flourish. We're seeing more and more of that mature, especially in some of these Asian markets. But adoption is only going in one direction, and that is in the upward direction. So I don't put too much stock in some of what these guys are saying, these old guard 3 billionaires. I don't know if you should. I think the way I see it, they're just protecting the empires that they themselves have built. But flying in the face of their comments is more positive news. So in addition to the Goldman Sachs, in addition to the JP Morgan patents, in addition to the CEO of NASDAQ expressing enthusiasm in cryptocurrency. So now you have the New York Stock Exchange owner, ICE, which weighs in on a potential Bitcoin trading platform. So Intercontinental Exchange, the firm that owns the New York Stock Exchange, is the latest Wall Street giant to be mulling a move into the cryptocurrency space. So this is an article that was first published by the New York Times, and it's getting a lot of traction today. It's circulating quite extensively. It suggests that the Intercontinental Exchange has been developing an online Bitcoin trading platform for major investors who want access to Bitcoin. Very interesting. So this could be something that really sparks, in a good way, institutional FOMO. Because the more and more people get in at the high levels, the more and more of their peers and their competitors and even colleagues will want to make sure that they're not missing out. So if we look at the original New York Times article, Bitcoin sees Wall Street warm to trading virtual currency. Some of the biggest names on Wall Street are warming up to Bitcoin, a virtual currency that for nearly a decade has been consigned to the unregulated fringes of the financial world. The parent company of the New York Stock Exchange has been working on an online trading platform that would allow large investors to buy and hold Bitcoin. According to emails and documents viewed by the New York Times, and 4 people briefed on the effort who asked to remain anonymous because the plans were still confidential. Very mysterious. The moves by Goldman and Intercontinental Exchange, or ICE, the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, mark a dramatic shift toward the mainstream for a digital token that has been known primarily for its underworld associations and a status as a high-risk speculative investment. All right, a little bit of some underhanded descriptors there, but nonetheless, I think it's encouraging. Details of the platform that Intercontinental Exchange is working on have not been finalized, and the project could still fall apart given the hesitancy among big Wall Street institutions to be closely associated with the Wild West of virtual currencies. A spokesman said that the company had no comment. So moving on here, I just want to end this particular article with the quote at the very tail end of it. So the industry is seeing unprecedented institutional interest for the first time in Bitcoin's history. I've been amazed that the strongest believers in cryptocurrency often start out the most skeptical. Very true. It's a healthy skepticism. But at some point, the perception shifts. And for many institutions, I think we're finally here. Institutional FOMO. Wouldn't that be a cool thing to see? I believe more and more of it is surfacing. Going back to the last article, however, just to describe the nature of it, the report, referring to the New York Times coverage of the ICE report, also suggests that the company has had discussions with other financial institutions about a different effort that could make ICE-backed Bitcoin swap contracts available to banks, though the exchange has made no announcement on either project. So my understanding of these swap contracts is that they would have to come under a more strict form of regulation. That's the only part of this news that I'm seeing as a little bit ambiguous in terms of where we're going to go. Because if we are talking about Bitcoin swap contracts, that's something that's going to entail and require more regulation that we've been accustomed to than we've been accustomed to on the exchanges, for example. So let's see where that goes. I mean, we don't want to forsake the decentralization that we all know and love in exchange for the institutional attention. So let's keep an eye on that. Another article here just covering the same thing. So New York Times, New York Stock Exchange owner wants to let customers buy Bitcoin. So this is very positive. I think this is mega news. This is so much more important than the opinions of old billionaires in their late 80s and 90s. So referring to Buffett and Munger. And we'll see what happens with Bill Gates. I'd like to extend a hand to him. Hopefully he can become a soldier of the crypto army, maybe even the altcoin buzz army. Wouldn't that be nice? It's never too late, but let's keep an eye on that. I think it's controlled FUD. And of course, we're going to keep an eye on these SEC developments. Will Ethereum have a hearing regarding its status as either a utility or a token? Not too sure at this point. What we do know is that it wasn't a rumor started on Reddit. It was covered in Bloomberg. It was covered in the Wall Street Journal at a national level. So it was big news. We're going to have to keep an eye on it and see what happens. And I hope that we haven't all been duped, myself especially. We're going to keep you updated to get the latest news. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. Make sure you're following Altcoin Buzz for all of the most important updates. And the same goes for the regular social media channels. Links will be in the description. If you like this video, guys, leave us a thumbs up. Make sure you click on the bell to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hey, and do be sure to sound off in the comments because we love your perspectives. We incorporate them, including your opinions, into our reporting, and we refer back to them if they're especially relevant or especially insightful in subsequent videos. And of course, we put out new content every day. That's about it for today, everyone. Wishing you all happy trading and a great afternoon. Cheers.